Championship drag racing. The Silver Anniversary Winternationals. Speeds in excess of 260 miles an hour. Covering the quarter mile in less than 6 seconds. Drag racing from the NHRA, home of Pomona Raceway. Since 1953, this track has played a vital and important role in the growth of the sport of drag racing in the United States. And today, Pomona Raceway hosts the 25th annual running of the NHRA Winternationals. Just how important is this season-opening NHRA event? Well, take a look at the jammed grandstands, the overflow crowd that has come in spite of unseasonably cold weather here in Pomona, California. Hello, everybody. I'm Dave McClelland, and the principal reason this sport has such a rich and varied tradition is the racers' never-ending quest for a lower elapsed time and more speed down this historic quarter mile. For a look at a quarter century of drag racing, here's Steve Evans.
Dave, the centerpiece of the Silver Anniversary Winternational celebration has got to be this collection of restored drag racing legends. Who could ever forget Art Chrisman's famous Hustler car, one of the first machines to ever top 180 miles an hour. And in fact, it was this car that West Coast fans said Don Garlits couldn't beat when Big Daddy first came west in 1959. Actually, Art Chrisman's first dragster was this machine. It dates back to the 30s, was even a street car during World War II, and it's kind of a hodgepodge of technology. A little hot rod, a little dirt track, and even some Lakester involved in this machine. Over there, that was the first dragster that was commercially available. You could buy it in kit form and build it yourself. It was driven to the top eliminator title here at the 1963 Winternationals by Jim Nelson, the famous Dragmaster Dart. One of my favorite cars of the early 60s, and it owned every track record in Northern California, was the Champion Speed Shop Special owned by Jim McLennan. But predating the funny cars for tire smoke and wheel standing excitement were the blown gassers, supercharged Chrysler engines in Willys coupes such as this one, names like Big John Masmanian, Ohio George Montgomery, and to West Coast fans, this was the king, Stone, Woods, and Cook. When it comes to Winternationals memories, the man I mentioned earlier, Don Garlits, has some of the fondest.
Going back to the first one for me would be the 63 Winternationals. It was the first introduction of Top Fuel back into NHRA drag racing after many years of an all-gas program. Then 1971, I introduced my rear-engine car here and won. And then in 1975, I won this race, and it was really very close racing. And it wasn't a real good car, and that was the points that I needed that won the World Championship that year.
Was it possibly last year when you came here and the crowd reaction was so tremendous? Did that have anything to do with you coming back full-time?
That's very true. It was, you know, everybody had told me, the competitors, says they've forgotten you, they don't need you anymore. And you know, you hear that long enough, you get to believing it. And when I came out here to race that race, I was so overwhelmed with the crowd reaction, I felt that I had to get back into NHRA drag racing.
That's Big Daddy Don Garlits, a race driver at the peak of his career at the age of 53. But Don Garlits and his efforts in Top Fuel Eliminator is not the only story here at the 25th annual running of the NHRA Winternationals. 5 days ago, Bob Glidden made a prediction. He said he would drive his Ford Thunderbird to an elapsed time of 7.54 seconds sometime during the Winternationals. The five-time event champion came to the starting line in the first round of Pro Stock Eliminator, facing the Mercury Topaz of Roy Hill. Glidden automatically won the race as Hill left the starting line too soon, drawing the foul start. In taking the win, Glidden backed up his prediction, shattering both ends of the record at 7.53 seconds elapsed time at over 186 miles an hour. In a surprise announcement, three-time world champion Raymond Beadle declared his retirement from driving. His new driver, John Lombardo, rewarded Beadle with a new record. Steve talked to Beadle.
The pressures of business, is that why you've retired?
Yeah, that's primarily it. You know, I have a Grand National team and then a sprint car team with Sammy Swindell, and I haven't been that involved with my other racing, and I want to be, and I'm getting more and more involved with my other businesses.
Thanks for all the thrills over the years, Raymond. There's been many of them.
Thank you, Steve. Glad you're part of them.
It's been our pleasure, Raymond. Record-shattering performances, an overflow crowd, everyone is awaiting today's great racing action. The The 1985 Winternationals are being brought to you by Goodyear. Goodyear tires and Goodyear service for more good years in your car. And by Budweiser. For all you do, this Bud's for you. And by Motorcraft. Quality parts for all makes of cars and trucks. Motorcraft exceeds the need. The premier West Coast drag racing event, the 25th annual NHRA Winternationals, about to unfold. The 25th annual NHRA Winternationals in Pomona, California. We're set for the second round of racing in Top Fuel Eliminator. And here is the legend, Big Daddy Don Garlits. 22 years ago, Don Garlits won his first Winternationals title. Today, he is racing Dick LaHaye. LaHaye, 43 years old, from Lansing, Michigan, is a former Winternationals champion himself. And in spite of all the success Don Garlits has had at the Winternationals, he's a lucky man just to be here today. It was 1 week ago at Firebird Raceway in Phoenix, Arizona, in a race against Gary Beck, that Don Garlits had the wing collapse on his race car at over 259 miles an hour. Don was unable to keep control of the vehicle, the car rolling over several times, causing severe damage to the brand new race car. Garlits worked all week in Phoenix to get the car ready. Steve Evans asked him, how would you do it?
Well, it's going to take a lot of hard work and a little bit of luck and a little help from the Lord and all my friends. And I think there's a real good chance we'll be there at Pomona.
So that set the scene for earlier this morning in first round racing. The question was, is the repaired car competitive? Once again, Don Garlits was facing Gary Beck, and there was no doubt to the outcome, as Don Garlits handily defeated Gary Beck with an outstanding elapsed time of 5.53 seconds at a speed of over 258 miles an hour. His confidence restored, Don Garlits is now set for this second round race against Dick LaHaye. LaHaye in the far lane with the unpainted race car. Garlits, his traditional black race car. The team of Garlits and Malone in the near lane. Both drivers concentrating on the starting procedures, inching their cars forward into the electronic light beams across the starting line. A flash of yellow and a green light, and a great start for Dick LaHaye. He seems to have an advantage, but here comes Garlits. And Garlits with a 5.50 elapsed time. His speed as he crossed the finish line, 262 miles an hour. Our next pair of cars already running. This is the defending champion, the man that won it all a year ago, Gary Ormsby. He's in the near lane. His competitor is Denver Schutz. Schutz is from Fresno, California, and he's a raisin farmer by trade, but a drag racer for fun. Gary Ormsby is from Roseville, California. He owns a car dealership, but he is a touring professional racer. Ormsby's cars have always been on the leading edge of technology, and this new 1985 version is no exception. Note the aerodynamic styling in front of the rear wheels, trying to get the car to cut through the air just a little bit quicker. While these two drivers get set, let's go to Steve with Don Garlits.
Well, Don, you picked up the pace a little bit in the second round. A nice 550 over 260.
Yeah, the car's handling good. I'm just kind of easing up on that top speed, you know, because I'm still a little nervous about it, but it really responded nice in. It went straight, and we're very happy with it.
These Top Fuel dragsters are sophisticated racing machines. Powered by a 2,500 horsepower or more nitro-burning engine, their tubular chassis stretch over 250 inches in wheelbase. Gary Ormsby has got a race on his hands. Something goes wrong with the engine in Denver Schutz's car. The motor letting go. Gary Ormsby taking an easy win and advancing to the semifinals. But as Denver Schutz kept the car under control, the engine letting go. Lots of smoke coming out of that motor. Let's take a look from a different angle, and you can see out of the right-hand side of the engine, lots of oil smoke, and that indicates serious internal damage to Denver Schutz's engine. Gary Ormsby streaks for the finish line and takes the win. Coming back up the return road is an obviously happier man than Denver Schutz. This is Big Daddy Don Garlits, and look at this huge overflow crowd respond to their favorite. Here's another of their favorites. This is the reigning world champion, Joe Amato. He won it all last season. He comes from Old Forge, Pennsylvania. At the age of 40, Joe Amato is one of the premier racers in the sport today. Here's the race between the newest superstar against the crafty veteran. Connie Coletta of Ypsilanti, Michigan, won this Winternationals championship back in 1967. 1 year ago, Joe Amato finished in the runner-up position. Last season, Amato stunned the drag racing world as his Tim Richards prepared dragster was the first car ever over 260 miles an hour. For Connie Coletta, it's been an outstanding career that includes 3 national event championships. 1984 was the year that Joe Amato absolutely dominated Top Fuel racing. He debuted a new car last season that he said contained 10 innovations, some of which included aerodynamic devices, others some mechanical tricks within the engine placement and within the tubular chassis itself. But the one dominant feature of Joe Amato's car last season and this year too was the tall wing on the back of the race car. These wings have now been adopted by every successful Top Fuel racer in the business, including this man, Connie Coletta. We're in the second round of Top Fuel racing as both drivers approach those starting line beams very cautiously, trying for the best start, trying for that advantage off the starting line. And it is Amato with a head start at this point as Coletta gets dangerously close to the center line. Amato, 5.49 seconds, and look at the speed, the fastest ever, 264 miles an hour plus for Joe Amato. Earlier, we saw Gary Beck lose to Don Garlits in the first round of racing. Here's the boss, the man that put together that all-star racing team, Larry Minor, and his competition, Bill Mullins. Minor is the #1 qualifier, stunning everyone with a 5.43-second elapsed time. Minor, an off-road racer as well as one of the best in drag racing. For Bill Mullins, he was a surprise with a 263-mile-an-hour charge in a car owned by John Kerry. Let's go to Steve Evans, who's had a chance to catch up with Joe Amato.
Well, Joe Amato just stuns everyone with low elapsed time of the day at 5:49, Joe.
Well, we knew Connie was going to be tough, and Tim Richards, he's been kind of sick all weekend, and he's been kind of just giving us a little bit of horsepower, so we didn't have to work on the car too much. And we knew Connie was going to be right there, so we stepped on it a little bit. Hopefully, everything will be good. We're going to have to run Garlits next round. That's going to be a real race, so I hope there's some more left in the horsepower department, and we're going to have to really, try and do a good job driving, and maybe we can put him away.
Back on the starting line, it's Larry Minor in the near lane. In the far lane, Bill Mullins driving for John Kerry. Mullins out of Pelham, Alabama at 263 miles an hour in qualifying joins a very elite group. Those drivers that have raced over 260 miles an hour in a quarter of a mile. Once again, just inching into those staging beams, our 2 drivers getting ready. The green light starts, and an engine explosion for Bill Mullins. Larry Minor takes the win and advances into the semifinals. A fine time for Minor at 5.52 seconds and a slowing 250 miles an hour. And talk about slowing without the supercharger on top of the car. Bill Mullins brings John Kerry's car to a slowing stop in the shutdown area. As we watch again, you see both cars are almost side by side as they pass the Christmas tree. And then the engine goes away in a fireball for Mullins, and that puts him out of competition. A graphic depiction of the explosive force of these nitro-burning engines. Bill Mullins, okay after the explosion. Larry Minor, an easy trip into the semifinals, where he'll race Gary Ormsby. The other pair in the semifinals, Joe Amato against Don Garlits. Amato with lane choice by virtue of a lower elapsed time. We'll be right back to the Winternationals. Nitro-burning 2,500 horsepower engines encased in a tubular chassis. This is Kenny Bernstein's newest creation. on the forefront of the search for aerodynamic style. Earlier, Steve took a look at what makes it so special.
We talked a lot last season about Kenny Bernstein and his wind tunnel testing. Well, Kenny has finally been able to take all of that data and apply it to a one-of-a-kind Ford Tempo body. The first thing you notice is the car is a good deal narrower in the front. It's got less frontal area. It'll push less wind. Now, that is possible because they have extended the front portion of the body to the maximum legal 40 inches from the center of the wheel to the very front of the body. That also accomplished something else. With the extra room, they were able to move the fuel tank and the fire bottles forward for ballast, eliminating an 80-pound lead bar. Now, the next thing that is obvious on this car is that they have drastically altered the angle of the roof. Formerly, it sloped back very gradually. Now it drops off quickly, allowing the wind to get back here and work with the rear spoiler. The rear spoiler is a good deal smaller than a lot of the cars that have a regular whale tail because of this efficiency, and also because beneath there is a road racing style kind of semi-ground effects tunnel. So that tunnel working with the spoiler gives them the needed down pressure. Now, that's really about all I can tell you about this body, because that's all they will tell me. An awful lot of secrets surrounding this car, including these louvers here. They won't even discuss them.
Steve, the search always goes on for more speed and a quicker elapsed time. This is Kenny Bernstein in the far lane. He is racing here in round number 2. Rick Johnson driving Roland Leong's Hawaiian, the Dodge Daytona bodied creation, in the near lane. Rick Johnson from Los Angeles, California, the latest in a series of fine drivers for Roland Leong. For Kenny Bernstein, finished number 3 in the world last season, one of the most popular drivers on the professional drag racing circuit. The burnout procedures are completed. The crew's now coming back to watch their driver perform. Kenny Bernstein in the far lane. Rick Johnson following the direction of car owner and crew chief Roland Leong as they both approach the starting line. Very patient, and then the flash of green, and a great race. It is Rick Johnson there first. Has some problems with Kenny Bernstein, and look at the time. The quickest elapsed time in the history of the sport, 5.58 seconds at over 263 miles an hour. This deserves a second look as Kenny Bernstein and Rick Johnson are locked together in a struggle down this quarter mile. But nearing the finish line, Bernstein has problems.
Pull yourself together, young man. You are the quickest driver in history at 5:58.
What a pass. It was really a close race. Kenny was out on me there for a ways, and I had to use every button and handle I had in there to get around him.
5:50s, I have a hard time even saying it. Funny cars would never, ever dream to go that quick.
Well, we've learned a bunch over the winter. You know, we've been doing our homework and going out and partying and stuff. Chrysler's done a lot of aerodynamics for the body. Hawaiian Punch has helped us severely. Roland's doing a good job.
And obviously excited Rick Johnson. Here's the defending Winternationals Funny Car champion. This is Al Segrini. Last season and for the last several years, Segrini with his own race operation. For this event, he is a hired driver for Joe Pisano. He won this race in 1982 and is the defending champion when last season he matched up against Tim Gross in the finals. Segrini had a good lead as he approached the finish line, and then in a ball of fire, he won the race. The car went out of control, crossed over into Gross's lane, but Segrini was able to wrestle it to a stop. From southeastern Massachusetts, driving this year for Joe Pisano, Al Segrini. He is running against Tom McEwen from Fountain Valley, California. You watched him on Diamond P Sports last season when he won the Big Bud Shootout. McEwen, driving the Corvette-bodied funny car, is a many-time national event champion, including the coveted U.S. Nationals crown. Al Segrini, your defending champion, in the near lane. McEwen in the far lane. A tremendous start for both drivers, and it's anybody's race. By inches at the finish line, Al Segrini squeaked past Tom McEwen. The elapsed time for Segrini, 5.94 seconds. The losing time for McEwen, 5.95 seconds. As we take another look in slow motion, you can see it was anybody's race throughout the entire quarter-mile distance. At the middle of the course, maybe McEwen with just a few inches advantage. But at the finish line, it was Al Segrini winning it.
Well, Al, you had the horsepower and you needed it to come around McEwen.
Yeah, it shook real bad. It almost knocked me out, Steve. I got off the throttle and I almost gave up, and then I stuck it again. And it cleared up, and went on through. I seen I was pulling on him good, so I stayed in there and come around him. Thing left real good, but then just got in a bad shake. Bad shake.
Al Segrini obviously showing the effects of a tough run. The long smoky burnout by Ed the Ace McCulloch, another of those cars owned by Larry Minor. And here's the Blue Max for the first time in competition without Raymond Beadle behind the wheel. Fighting the pressures of business, Raymond Beadle retiring from driving and putting a North Hollywood businessman behind the wheel of the Blue Max, little John Lombardo, who calls Valencia, California home. Racing against Ed the Ace McCulloch, driving for Larry Minor. Sanger, California is home base for McCulloch. After a tremendously successful funny car career in the early 1970s, McCulloch went into a state of retirement until he was lured back behind the driver's seat by his boss, Larry Minor. That's McCulloch in the far lane. In the near lane, the new driver for the Blue Max. This is John Lombardo. Another great race, and then McCulloch gets near the concrete guardrail, but he pulls back to the center of his lane, and a tremendous upset. Ed McCulloch puts away the #1 qualifier. His elapsed time, 5.76 seconds. His speed over 253 miles an hour. What an upset. Ed McCulloch, his advantage coming right at the starting line. You see that Oldsmobile-bodied funny car begin to pull ahead. Then it moves out towards the edge of the racetrack and the guardrail. But McCulloch steers it back to the center of the lane, hangs on for the victory by just inches. There you see the comparison in time. Lombardo late off the starting line, quicker in elapsed time, but it was McCulloch to the finish line first, and the 1972 event winner advances into the semifinals. Steve?
Well, sometimes, as little John Lombardo well knows, you just have to take your lumps in this sport. You've got to be tremendously disappointed, yet excited what the future holds for you here.
Oh, yeah, the car is running excellent, a lot of potential in it. It was a little rich, that run, and obviously I was a little late, but I think we're going to win some races.
Any of that have to do with maybe not being quite used to the car yet?
Well, I think the more runs you make in the car, the more familiar you get, the better job you'll do. There's no question about that. We had 3/10 going in that race. I mean, he had run a 590 and we had run a 560, so I was by no means going to even attempt to cut a light and chance a red light. I didn't think he'd pull off that much.
See you on down the road, John.
Okay, thank you.
The final pair of cars in this round of competition in Funny Car Eliminator finds John Force in the near lane against Dale Pulde in the far lane. The burnouts are completed, the crews making their final checks of the cars. Dale Pulde from Granada Hills, California, against another Californian as John Force calls Fullerton, California home. The Corvette-bodied car of John Force in the near lane. The Pontiac Trans Am for Dale Pulde and his partner Mike Hamby in the far lane. Final staging completed. The green light. And a great race for Pulde as he pulls ahead at the start and just barely holds on at the finish line. Pulde's elapsed time, 5.74 seconds, and he crossed that finish line at over 252 miles an hour. In replay, you'll see the advantage he gained off the starting line. Dale Pulde in the far lane, pulling at least a car length ahead of John Force, but at the finish, just inches separate the two cars. 0.02 of a second advantage going to Dale Pulde, taking the win, leading into the semifinals. Those semifinal matchups will find Dale Pulde racing against Ed McCulloch with Pulde having lane choice, and Al Segrini goes against the quickest funny car ever, Rick Johnson, as we return to the Winter Nationals. Winter Nationals. I'm Dave McClelland along with Steve Evans and a huge crowd. But there is one person missing this day. Back in 1980, she raced against Connie Coletta for the Top Fuel event title. She won that race over her longtime competitor and compatriot, Coletta. Shirley Muldowney, three-time world champion in 1984, suffered one of the most serious accidents ever in a Top Fuel dragster. Her car left the racetrack and literally disintegrated into hundreds of pieces. Seriously injured, Shirley has been undergoing extensive surgery and recuperation since that time. The racing world has been wondering, how is Shirley doing? And most importantly, what does the future hold for Shirley Muldowney? On a snowy day, Steve Evans visited Shirley at home in Mount Clemens, Michigan.
When the surgeons are done and the therapists are done, what then, Shirley? Can you look ahead that far? I'm trying to. I have hopes and dreams, and I'm a pusher, and I would like to drive the race car again. That's what I really want to do, but I'd like to be able to do it and feel comfortable. I'm not too sure that's going to happen for me, but we'll know here in a few months.
A Top Fuel dragster again.
Oh, yes, that's where my love is, in Top Fuel, and that's what I want to drive the king of the sport.
We miss you, Shirley, and we want to see you again like this, and so do lots of other people. Most importantly, your fellow competitors in Top Fuel racing getting ready for the semifinal round at the Winter Nationals. Don Garlits in the far lane, a story in himself, coming back after that disastrous crash just 1 week ago. He is racing against the reigning world champion, Joe Amato, another innovative car for the Pennsylvania-based driver. Another prominent woman in drag racing is Joe's wife, Jerry. She is out in front of the car, giving him the hand signals, directing him back into his own tracks after the long burnout. Earlier, Steve had a chance to talk to Jerry.
1 year ago at the Winter Nationals, Don Garlits appeared to be headed for the winner's circle until he ran into Joe Amato, who put him away. Joe went on to become the world champion. And this is Jerry Amato. You got a shot at Big Daddy again here, Jerry. How do you feel about it?
Steve, I feel good going into it, but he's been around a long time, and he really knows what he's doing.
There are some drivers, when they race Garlits, Beck comes to mind, that maybe he psychs them out, but Joe doesn't appear to have that problem.
No, I don't think so. He's pretty aggressive, and he's ready for him.
Now, in the elapsed time department, you've got an edge.
Yeah, a little bit, but he can still gain on him.
Okay, good luck to you, kid.
Thanks, Steve.
Don Garlits on a hot streak. He has won the last 2 major NHRA championships, but Joe Amato, the hottest driver on the circuit today. This is semifinal racing at the Winter Nationals. Joe Amato near lane, Garlits in the far lane. And a tremendous wheel stand for Amato. He backs the back pedal, and there's the motor goes away in an explosion for Amato. Joe Amato wins the race, but levels the motor. He brings the car to a safe stop. Jerry Amato very worried. You can tell by the look on her face about her husband, Joe. But the car to a safe stop. You see the safety people over checking immediately. Here we watch again. Look at the wheel stand. Joe Amato riding on those back tires, trying to stay away from the center line. The tires smoking. Garlits gets in front, but then he has engine problems, allowing Amato by, and then boom. There it is, the engine explosion that tore the supercharger right off the top of Joe Amato's dragster. The parachute stays on even with the intense flame, allowing Joe Amato to bring his dragster to a safe stop.
Well, the safety safari, as always, right on the scene. Joe Amato wins the race, but completely destroys an engine. Apparently, some of the shrapnel flattening the left rear tire. Joe, still with his helmet on here, staring where the supercharger used to be. Now, there are very strong restraint straps required to hopefully keep those superchargers near the engine, but apparently this one was just so violent that the straps, as strong as they are, could not handle it. So this is one of the few superchargers we've seen get away from the automobile with the restraints in place. Joe, that was just a violent one.
Yeah, it was violent, Steve. You know, we won the race, so that's the main thing. We got another motor, and hopefully we'll get back in and win this whole thing.
Boy, that's an expensive explosion. We're looking at $5 or $6 grand minimum there.
Yeah, you're putting like 10 probably, but you know, that's racing. You know, you have to be willing to take the good with the bad. I'm glad we won the race. You could have lost the race and blew the motor up too, and that'd be a lot worse.
A philosophical Joe Amato, but he's in the final. This is the man that beat him 1 year ago. Gary Ormsby, the defending Winter Nationals champion. Gary has brought a brand new car to this 1985 season opener. It is filled with innovative devices, primarily in the aerodynamic field. Earlier, we took a look at them. Steve's had a chance to look at them close up.
We've talked a lot about funny car aerodynamics. Well, the Top Fuel dragster drivers are thinking seriously about it, too. Witness Gary Ormsby's car. Now, this piece of hand-formed sheet metal, there's one on either side, attaches to the chassis and hopefully will force air around instead of over the rear tires, getting those rear tires a little more streamlined. Other factors included in Ormsby's car, it's the longest Top Fuel dragster I've ever seen at 265 inches. Now, he says it's got built-in traction because at that length, it'll flex and put more weight on the rear wheels through weight transfer. Also, because Gary's only 5'8", they've been able to lower the cage on the car a full 2 inches get it a little more streamlined. They've raised the cowl in front of Gary. They ran wind tunnel tests on a model of this car and could tell by the smoke they put over it that by raising the cowl, then that air goes directly into the blower scoop. So Gary Ormsby may well be on the right track.
Trying to stop Gary Ormsby in this semifinal round is the #1 qualifier, Larry Minor. He's in the near lane, Ormsby in the far lane. A bit of a staging duel going on. Both drivers have approached the starting line. Now they're inching into the staging beams. Ormsby comes in last. The flash of green and tire smoke for Larry Minor puts him out of the race. Gary Ormsby, we've got a rematch of 1984 as Ormsby will meet Joe Amato in the final. Ormsby will have lane choice, but remember, Joe Amato must replace that exploded engine. We'll be right back to the Winter Nationals. Parts Winter Nationals in Pomona, California. There's lots of action going on right now, most of it back in the pit area around Joe Amato's car. There's lots of money hanging at the end of that chain as a brand new engine is being lowered between the frame rails of that Top Fuel dragster. Steve Evans is with the man that Joe Amato beat.
Well, considering that a week ago to the hour, Don Garlits was upside down on his race car in the Arizona mud, this has still been a pretty productive weekend.
Yes, it has, Steve. We're just really happy to be here, and we had a little problem there against Joe and broke a blower drive, but the car ran good today, and we're real tickled with it, and we're going to put a back half on it before Gainesville, and it'll barely be up to par then.
You know, I thought you might have been beating coasting there for a minute.
I was coasting a long ways, and he must have saw that I had shut off. Boy, he stepped on that thing, and it nearly turned me around right there in the traps when he come by me.
The one and only Big Daddy Don Garlits. It's time for semifinal racing in Pro Stock Eliminator. These are the factory hot rods. Here's the Chevy Camaro of Ken Dondero just smoking those huge rear tires, getting them as hot as possible, trying to find as much traction as he can. Because Dondero's going to need it. He's against the man that has been dominating Pro Stock racing at this Winter Nationals Championship. Driving the Ford Thunderbird from Whiteland, Indiana, this is Bob Glidden. Ken Dondero, driving for his old pal, Bob Panella, is from Balboa Island, California, and comes back after laying out of drag racing for several years. He's now in his second full season of Pro Stock competition. The battle of the factories. Chevrolet in the near lane, Ford in the far lane. With a wheel standing start goes Glidden, a one-car length advantage just a few hundred feet off the starting line, and at the finish, an easy victory. 7.59 seconds, just off pace a little bit from his earlier record-shattering 7:53. A valiant effort, though, for Dondero. Here's the brand-new car, the Pontiac Trans Am Firebird of Butch Leal. Leal is in the near lane. He is racing the man that was #2 in the world last season in a brand-new Oldsmobile Calais. This is Warren Johnson. He now calls Duluth, Georgia home. For Butch Leal, his home base is in Blacklick, Ohio. He's formerly from California, known as the California Flash. 500 cubic inches, 2 4-barrel carburetors, racing gasoline only. A red light start for Leal. Johnson wins it and will move to the finals to race against the record holder, Bob Glidden. The new car of Butch Leal, leaving the starting line too early, giving the win automatically to Warren Johnson. Let's take a look at just what a red light or a foul start means. In the white car, Butch Leal leaves that starting line just a hair too soon before the green light comes on, giving the win automatically to Warren Johnson, putting him in the Pro Stock finals against this man, the man to beat, Bob Glidden in that flying Ford Thunderbird. It's time now for the semifinal round of racing in Funny Car Eliminator. Rick Johnson driving Roland Leong's Hawaiian in the near lane against Joe Pisano's car with the defending Funny Car champion Al Segrini at the wheel. Joe Pisano, you see him right in front of the brilliant black machine, very stoically watching as Al Segrini approaches the starting line. Developing a new race engine. He calls it the JP1. That's what's powering Pisano's car. A Keith Black racing engine in the Hawaiian entry of Roland Leong. Rick Johnson, the driver. Don't forget, it was just one round of racing ago that he recorded the quickest time ever, 5.58 seconds. But this time, he's got his hands full. Al Segrini across the finish line. Johnson falling off pace. And for the second year in a row, Al Segrini moves into the Funny Car finals at the Winter Nationals. His time, 5.79 seconds, is back on the starting line with a long, smoky burnout. Ed the Ace McCulloch driving for Larry Minor. In the far lane, now just doing his burnout, is Dale Paulding. That's a Pontiac Trans Am body. Paulding and his partner, Mike Hamby, racing out of the home base of Granada Hills, California, located out there in the San Fernando Valley. Let's join Steve Evans with the defending champion, Al Segrini.
For the second year in a row, Al Segrini goes into the Winter Nationals final. In Joe Paisano's car, you had to be a little worried racing the quickest car in the world.
Oh, yeah, but I've never seen anybody win a race down that other end. You got to get to these lights first to win, and boy, Joe's prepared a great car. He's got a brand new engine in the car, the JP1. I'm really tickled with it, and I'd really like to get him an Oscar.
He's never been on the National Event Winner's Circle.
He's really been down. He's had a couple open heart surgery, and I really want to get him an Oscar for that mantle. I think we can do it here.
You may very well. Al Segrini, can he make it 2 in a row?
The Oscar, the trophy symbolic of an NHRA national event win. Ed the Ace McCulloch has won his share, as is Dale Paulding. But it's been a long dry spell here at the Winter Nationals for final round appearances for Ed McCulloch. Back in 1976, he made it to the final round, only to finish in the runner-up spot, and he won't even make it to the finals this time. The red light in the near lane for McCulloch indicating once again a car left the starting line too soon, disqualifying him and putting Dale Paulding into the final round to race against the defending champion, Al Segrini. Segrini with lane choice by virtue of his much quicker elapsed time. We'll be back for the finals in just a moment. Running of the NHRA Winter Nationals, and there's lots of work going on in Gary Ormsby's pit area as he gets ready to move into the Top Fuel finals for the second year in a row. The question is, can he win it? We'll find out in just a few moments, because right now on the starting line, we're set for the finals in Pro Stock Eliminator. The Oldsmobile Calais of Warren Johnson has been experiencing some handling difficulties throughout this entire meet. He's got a difficult task. He is facing the Ford Thunderbird of Bob Glidden. Steve talked with Warren.
In the elapsed time department, though, your best about a 65, his best in the 50s. You got your work cut out for you in the starting line.
Well, I guess that would become under the term of a monumental task, but I think we're up to it. We made a lot of changes of stuff that we wanted to test, and it's a situation of we've got everything to gain and nothing to lose, so we're going for it.
So you've changed a lot of things on the car?
Yeah, we've changed a lot of things. We really don't know what to expect. The last 2 runs have only been relatively straight, and we changed some chassis parts in it, plus a lot of engine pieces, so hopefully we'll get a lot better.
Knowing you and Bob Glidden, it'll be a great final.
I hope so.
Bob Glidden in the Ford Thunderbird has been absolutely dominant throughout the entire event, establishing both ends of the record. But this is the final. Everything's on the line in this one race. And there's those handling problems that Warren has been so concerned about. That gives Glidden an advantage that he parlays into a multi-car link victory. Bob Glidden winning the 25th annual NHRA Winter Nationals in his Ford Thunderbird. The elapsed time for Glidden, an outstanding 7.58 seconds at over 184 miles an hour. Glidden, the champion, defeating Warren Johnson. As we look again, you can see Johnson in the near lane has those problems that take him close to the center line. That left front wheel of that Oldsmobile Calais high off the ground. He has to let it back down to the pavement so he can steer the car away from the center line as Glidden takes it all.
Well, Bob Glidden's performance here at the Winter Nationals could only be called total intimidation. Bob, a 7:58. Congratulations.
Thank you, Steve. I don't think anyone was really intimidated.
Competition was.
Well, I hope they were. We're glad that we won the race for the Chief people, the Ford people. You know, Chief sponsored the race. And I think they've got about 1,500 people back at the tent waiting for us to get back there. So we're tickled that we won the race, and thank God we're here.
You even enjoyed an advantage off the starting line.
I thought maybe a little. I was kind of cautious with the track. It looked like there was a slick spot. You know, we run off to the side from where everyone else runs for some reason. And I was afraid we were going to get crossed up, and I really didn't pay attention to Warren's car. Well, I have no idea what he even ran.
He was all over the racetrack, apparently. But congratulations to you and Etta and the kids and the whole game.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Bob Glidden, along with his wife and crew chief, Etta, very happy over his Pro Stock Championship. Dale Paulding into the finals of Funny Car Eliminator doing the long, smoky burnout. Again, every car in competition with the burnout heating up those tires. Racing against him for the second year in a row into the final round of competition is Al Segrini. The big difference here, instead of driving his own car, Segrini is driving for Joe Pisano. For Dale Foldy, a difficult task indeed. He has waded his way through some of the toughest competition now to face the defending champion. Al Segrini has not been the quickest car of this day, but here he is in the finals for the second year in a row. Those quicker cars, not only in qualifying but during the racing, have fallen by the wayside. Dale Foldy in the near lane knows he's got a tough race ahead of him.
Segrini is a tiger at this race. He won it last year. He'll go to the starting line and throw everything they've got at you.
He will, and Uncle Joe Pisano is probably one of the best guys to drive for. I think if I had to drive for anybody, I'd like to drive for him, and Segrini's got a real good ride, and he's a good driver. It's going to be a good race.
We're just a few seconds away from that final race in Funny Car Eliminator. It's a good start, and Segrini moves ahead instantly. He continues to extend the lead, and something goes wrong. The car, with lots of sparks coming out of it, he pulls over into Dale Foldy's lane, then drives back away from him. For the second year in a row, Al Segrini has won the race, but crossed the finish line in a ball of flame. The emergency hatch on the roof of the car comes open, and Al Segrini scrambles out. The roar of the huge crowd indicating their approval as the word goes out that Segrini is A-OK. Let's take a look at all of this action again. We can see by a train length Segrini is leading a troubled Dale Foldy. But right at the finish line, the sparks literally begin to fly. Looking like a 4th of July sparkler, Al Segrini, driving Joe Pisano's car, begins to shed lots of sparks. Inside that cockpit sits Al Segrini. From a ground level shot, you can see as the flames and sparks fill up the cockpit. Segrini with a presence of mind to pull the chutes to stop the car.
So for the second year in a row, a flaming final round victory, Al Segrini.
Well, it's getting crazy, isn't it, huh? Same as last year, repeat. You know, we had problems just before we pushed out with the clutch, and I said to Joe, something wrong in the bell housing. I did the burnout, and I stayed, I had trouble getting the reverse. I knew it was dead. I said, well, I'm going to have to gamble. And I pedaled her one time and got back in it, and then just before the lights there, it went again. This is getting crazy.
I know how badly you wanted to win for Joe Pisano. You have done that, my friend. You got awfully close to pulley. Was there any contact there?
No, I seen his fender. See, I was on fire there. I couldn't see. And then out of the car, I seen his red fender. That's why I went back over. It was my lane.
All right, let's clear this area. We got more cars coming down. Congratulations again.
Thanks, Steven.
Al Segrini is a repeat champion. Can this man, Gary Ormsby, do it? We'll find out in just a moment. 25th annual NHRA Winternationals. The big question is, can this man make it 2 years in a row? The defending champion, Gary Ormsby, 1 year ago defeated this man. The reigning world champion, Joe Amato, in the Top Fuel final at the Winternationals. Amato indicates, I'm ready. Are you? Joe Amato in the near lane. Gary Ormsby, his brand new aerodynamically refined car in the far lane. The flames beginning to stand off of the headers as those 2,500 horsepower nitro-burning engines are ready to propel these cars down the quarter mile. The staging's over. The green light's on. And Ormsby has a bit of a lead at half track. But here comes the top in charge of Amato. And it's Joe Amato winning the Winternationals. Smoke and some pistons at the finish line. His wife Jerry and the entire crew celebrating Joe Amato's first victory for 1985. A 5.55 second elapsed time, and that patented over 260-mile-an-hour charge carries Amato past Gary Ormsby. The replay shows us a little bit of a lead for Ormsby at this point, but watch how quickly Amato will change that advantage. Because at the finish line, by almost a car length, Joe Amato wins the Winternationals.
What a day, says Joe Amato as he climbs out of the beautiful candy apple red Top Fuel dragster. The reigning world champion looks back at the engine, a little oil, but at this point, who cares?
Well, we're better than last year. Last year we blew 3 motors up here.
Only one this year.
Yeah, boy. That's Tim Richards, and I'd like to thank all the guys that helped me. Boy, they did a dynamite job. My crew, you know, we came out, we blew everything apart. You were over there watching us. We had to go from scratch and build an injector, and, you know, it's a credit to the crew, and they just did a dynamite job, you know, and I didn't let them down and get a good light on them. I think I left on them, and it was a close race.
And seldom, when you have to thrash that hard and change engines, does it pay off, as you well know, but it certainly did for you.
Well, it's the old theory. If you have your act organized, you can come back from disaster and win, and that's what a true champion's made out of.
Great start on defending the title. Joe Amato wins the Winternational. Sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Let's see it on TV. Thank you.
And see you we do, Joe. Our congratulations to all the winners. For Steve Evans, this is Dave McClellan saying so long from the LA County